Changed for Richard Hayes began like any other. The coffee machine hissed. The old neon sign outside his diner flickered. The same worn-out open sign swung gently on the glass door, creaking with every move of the wind. Hayes Family Diner had been standing on that corner for more than 30 years. To some people in the town of Ridgewood, it was a familiar comfort. To others, it was a place they'd heard about, but never felt welcome enough to enter. Inside, the floors were clean, the red booths polished, and the smell of fried eggs and bacon hung in the air. Behind the counter stood Richard himself, wiping glasses with a white towel, just like his father used to do. He liked to believe he was an honest man, a hard-working man, a man who knew his regulars and how things were done. But on that quiet afternoon, he was about to meet someone who would force him to see who he truly was. The bell above the door chimed softly as it opened. A man stepped in, tall, broad shoulders, dark skin. His hair was peppered with gray, and there was a small, almost invisible limp in his step. He wore a simple dark jacket, but on that jacket, pinned to the left side of his chest, were 3 small medals. His name was David Carter, a black veteran who had served his country for more than 20 years. He paused by the door and let his eyes adjust to the warm light inside. A few heads turned to look at him, just for a second, then turned back to their meals. It was a slow hour. A couple sat in the corner sharing fries. An older woman sipped tea by the window. A teenage boy sat alone in a booth, phone in hand, headphones dangling from his ears. David glanced around and smiled softly. He checked his phone. A message from his son blinked on the screen. "Hey Dad, I might be a few minutes late. Got delayed at the hospital. Order something for yourself, I'll join you soon. Love you." David's features softened. His son Daniel was a doctor now, a cardiologist. He still remembered the days when Daniel ran around in small shoes and asked questions about everything. Now his boy was saving lives. The word veteran hung in the air for a moment. Richard's eyes flicked to the medals, then back to David's face. But instead of respect, something else flashed there. Annoyance. Dismissal. "I don't care what you are," Richard replied. "I run a clean place. My regulars feel uncomfortable when certain types hang around." Certain types. The words weren't loud, but they hit harder than a shouted insult. David's jaw tightened for just a second. He'd heard worse in his life. On the streets, in stores, at borders and checkpoints in foreign lands. He had fought for a country where his own skin still made people suspicious. He looked around again. No one met his eyes. The couple pretended to focus on the table. The older woman stared into her tea. The teenage boy had his phone up now, slightly raised, screen glowing, camera open. David let out a slow breath. "Sir," he said, "if you don't want me here, you can say it plainly. I won't argue, I won't make a scene." Richard shrugged. "I just think you'd be more comfortable somewhere else," he replied. "Try the place across town. They're more used to your kind." There it was. No more hiding. Your kind. For a moment, David said nothing. His eyes were tired, but clear. He had stood in front of enemies with guns in their hands. He had carried wounded men on his back. And yet this quiet humiliation in a small-town diner somehow felt heavier than it should. He gave a slow nod. "Have a good day," he murmured. He turned, walked to the door, and stepped back out into the chilly air. The bell chimed again behind him, but this time the sound felt strangely hollow. He crossed the street and sat on a bench under a small tree. He didn't storm away. He didn't yell. He just sat. A few minutes later, a gray car pulled up in front of the diner. The driver's door opened. A young man stepped out, jacket neatly pressed, stethoscope still around his neck from his last patient. This was Daniel Carter, David's son. He glanced around, expecting to see his father through the diner window, sitting inside with that quiet smile he always wore. Instead, he saw an empty booth by the window, and through the glass he saw the owner standing behind the counter, acting as if nothing had happened. Daniel frowned and walked into the diner. The bell chimed again. Richard looked up and gave a polite, automatic smile. Here was a customer who looked more like the picture in his head. Young, well-dressed, no visible limp, no medals, no dark skin. This was a special day. They didn't get to see each other often, different cities, different schedules. But today Daniel had promised Dad no excuses dinner, just you and me. David slid the phone back into his pocket and walked toward an empty table near the window. It would be a good spot. He could see the street. He could watch his son's car pull up. He reached for the chair. "Hey, excuse me." The words cut through the air like a sharp blade. David turned. Behind the counter, with one hand still holding the towel and the other resting on the counter, Richard Hayes stared at him. There was no smile on his face, no warmth in his eyes. David offered a polite nod. "Good afternoon," he said gently. "I'm just waiting for my son. We'll be ordering when he gets here." Richard didn't nod back. Instead, he gave David a long, slow look. His gaze traveled from the man's face, down to his shoes, then back up to the medals on his jacket. He exhaled through his nose. "We're not a waiting room," Richard said flatly. "If you're going to sit, you need to order something right away." David blinked and glanced around. The couple in the corner weren't eating anymore. They were just talking softly. The older woman's cup was nearly empty. She was just swirling her tea. The teenager was leaning back, scrolling on his phone, no food in sight. No one else was being told to order right away. David turned back calmly. "I understand," he replied. "My son will be here any moment. We'll order as soon as he arrives." Richard put the glass down and leaned forward. "And are you sure you can afford it?" he asked. The diner went quiet. David felt his chest tighten just a little. He didn't move. Richard continued, his tone calm, almost casual. "This isn't one of those cheap fast food places," he said. "I've had people come in, order the cheapest thing on the menu, sit for hours, disturb my usual customers, and then forget to pay." David swallowed. "Sir," he said quietly, "I can pay. And my son—" "How do I know that?" Richard cut in. He tilted his head. "It's not personal. I just recognize trouble when I see it." At the back near the coffee machine, the young waitress Lily froze mid-step. She had been working here for months. She had seen this pattern before. The softer voice, the polite words, hiding something much darker underneath. David stood a little straighter. His voice stayed calm. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. "I'm a veteran. I came to share a meal with my son, that's all." "Good afternoon," Daniel said. "I'm meeting someone. My father should be here. Tall, dark skin, wearing a jacket with medals. Have you seen him?" Richard's stomach dropped for just a second. He cleared his throat. "Oh, him?" He forced a shrug. "Yeah, he was here, but he left. Said he didn't want anything after all." Daniel frowned. "Did something happen?" Richard shook his head quickly. "No, he just left." He lied. Maybe he changed his mind. Daniel pulled out his phone. No missed calls, no messages. "All right," he said slowly. "Thank you." He stepped back outside, scanning the street. Then he saw him, sitting on the bench across the road, staring down at his hands. Daniel walked over quickly. "Dad?" he called. David looked up, forcing a smile. "Hey, son," he said. "You made it." Daniel sat down beside him. "I went inside," he said. "The owner said you left. Why? What happened?" David looked at his son's face, the worry in his eyes. He didn't want to weigh him down. He knew how hard his son worked. Stomach dropped. Something happened. He just left. Maybe he changed his mind. Scanning the street, sitting on the bench. "Hey, son, you made it. What happened?" Worry in his eyes. Weigh him down. Hard his son worked. He knew the pain he saw every day in the hospital. "It's nothing," David said softly. "Let's just go somewhere else. There's another place down the road. We can eat there." "Dad," Daniel pressed gently. "Please, tell me the truth." David's shoulders rose and fell with a quiet sigh. "He didn't want my kind in there," he said, carefully choosing his words, even now. "He asked if we could even afford it. Told me to go somewhere else. So I did." Silence fell between them. Daniel felt a fire burn in his chest. The idea of his father, this man who had stood in deserts and jungles with the flag on his arm, being talked down to by a diner owner. It made his blood boil. "I'm going back there," Daniel said, starting to rise. But David's hand shot out and rested on his son's arm. "No," he said firmly. "Sit down." "Dad?" "Daniel," he said quietly, "I spent years fighting battles loudly. There comes a time when you learn which fights are worth your voice and which ones aren't. I'm not going to let a stranger's ignorance ruin this day with you." Daniel clenched his jaw. "So we just walk away?" he asked. "For now," David replied. "Not because he's right, but because I refuse to give him the power to steal our peace. We'll eat at another place. We will still laugh. We will still enjoy our time. That is how we win today." Slowly, Daniel nodded. "All right, Dad," he whispered. "For you, I'll let it go." They got into the car and drove off to another restaurant, one where the owner greeted them with a real smile, where the waitress called David Sir with genuine respect, where their laughter filled the booth and their plates were never empty. But while they tried to move on, back in Hayes' family diner, something else was happening. The teenager who had been sitting near the back tapped on his phone, opened his gallery, and watched the clip he had just recorded. He had captured everything. David trying to sit. Richard's sharp responses. The sentence that made the whole room freeze. "Try the place across town. They're more used to your kind." The boy watched it again and again. It bothered him. He thought about his own grandfather, who had told him stories about being turned away from places when he was younger, just because of how he looked. The boy's thumbs hovered over the screen. He could delete it. He could keep it to himself. Thumbs, hovered, screen. Delete it, keep it to himself. Or he could show people what really happened when no one thought the world was watching. That night, the clip appeared online. The caption was simple. "Black veteran kicked out of local diner. Is this who we are?" The video was barely 90 seconds long, but it was enough. People in town recognized the diner immediately. Some recognized David. Others recognized the tone in Richard's voice. The comments started slowly, then multiplied. "Is this real? I know that man. He served with my uncle. This is disgusting. In 2025 and this is still happening? I'm never eating at that place again." Boycott Hayes Family Diner. By the next morning, the little diner that had always depended on regulars woke up to something new. Silence. Only 2 tables were occupied. The usual morning rush never came. Instead, Richard's phone buzzed nonstop on the counter. He opened one message. It was a link to the video. He frowned and clicked it. He watched himself on the screen, from an angle he was never meant to see. The way he leaned over the counter, the look on his face, the way he glanced at the medals and still spoke down to the man wearing them. "Try the place across town. They're more used to your kind." He heard the words bounce back at him. He watched David's quiet reaction. No shouting, no arguing, just the deep, controlled breath of a man who had experienced this too many times before. A knot formed in Richard's throat. He clicked on the comments. They were brutal, angry, disappointed. People said things like, "I've been eating here for 5 years. I'm ashamed. My dad is a veteran. Seeing this makes me sick. This is why people don't feel safe in their own community. I hope he loses everything." Richard tossed the phone onto the counter, his face pale. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "They're exaggerating. I didn't say anything that bad." But the video didn't care about his excuses. The internet didn't care about his intentions. It only showed what he actually did. Lily, the waitress, walked in a little later than usual. She had already seen the video before work. Her stomach had twisted when she realized the place in the clip was her workplace. "Mr. Hayes," she said quietly, standing by the counter. "We need to talk." He didn't look at her. "If you're here to lecture me like everyone else, save it," he snapped. "People are blowing this out of proportion. The internet loves to destroy small businesses." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "He was a veteran," she said softly. "You threw a veteran out of your diner, Mr. Hayes." "I didn't throw him out," Richard argued. "I just suggested he'd be more comfortable somewhere else." "That's not what happened," she whispered. "I was here. I heard everything. You judged him the moment he walked in. You questioned if he could pay. You said you're kind, like he was dirt. He finally looked up at her. She didn't look angry. She looked hurt. I've kept silent about a lot, she continued. The way you talk to certain customers, the way you treat them differently. I told myself I needed this job, that maybe it was just how things were. But watching that video, listening to you, seeing that man's face, she shook her head. I can't be part of this anymore, she said. She untied her apron and placed it gently on the counter. I'm sorry, she whispered. I quit. She walked out. The bell chimed again, and then it was quiet. Days passed. The video grew. It wasn't just the town anymore. People from other states started commenting. Richard tried to ignore it. He tried to call it online drama, but the evidence was right there, replaying over and over. Then one morning, a white envelope arrived in his mailbox. The logo at the top of the letter read, Ridgewood Development Group. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it. Dear Mr. Hayes, we are writing to inform you that the building your restaurant currently occupies has recently been purchased by our company. Your current lease is due for renewal in 2 months. We would like to arrange a meeting to discuss the future of your tenancy. You will be meeting with our partner and community relations director, Dr. Daniel Carter. The name meant nothing to Richard at first. He focused only on the words lease, future, and meeting. If they decided not to renew his lease, that was it. His diner, his life's work, would be gone. He quickly responded, agreeing to the meeting. He straightened every chair that afternoon, cleaned every surface twice, polished the silver, put on his best shirt. At exactly 3 o'clock, the door opened. A tall man walked in, neatly dressed, calm expression, confident steps. Good afternoon, he said. You must be Mr. Hayes. Yes, Richard replied quickly, extending his hand. Yes, welcome. You must be Dr. Carter. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? No, thank you, Daniel said, taking a seat by the window. This won't take too long. Richard sat across from him, forcing a smile. I know there's been some noise online, Richard began. But I've been here for years. We serve the community. That video, we'll come to that, Daniel said softly. There was something about his tone that made Richard fall silent. Daniel rested his hands on the table. Mr. Hayes, he said quietly. Before we talk about leases and contracts, I'd like to tell you a story. A story? Richard repeated, confused. Yes, Daniel replied. It's recent, very recent. It starts right here in this diner. He looked around slowly, taking in the booths, the counter, the sign on the wall. A little over a week ago, he said, a man walked through your door. He was black, a little older, walked with a small limp, wearing a jacket with medals on it. Richard's throat tightened. Daniel's gaze was steady. He came early to meet his son for dinner, he continued. He chose a table by the window. He wasn't loud. He wasn't causing trouble. He was just waiting. Richard shifted in his seat. You questioned him before he even sat down, Daniel said. You asked if he could pay. You hinted that he might cause problems. You suggested that people like him weren't good for your image. Richard started, but Daniel raised a hand. And then, Daniel went on, his voice still calm, you told him to try the place across town, because they were more used to his kind. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and placed it on the table between them. The video played again. In the quiet diner, every word sounded louder than before. Richard stared at his own face on the screen. He barely recognized the man speaking. You know this video well, I'm sure, Daniel said. You've been living with its consequences. Richard swallowed hard. This internet thing, he muttered. It made me look worse than I am. I was having a bad day. People are twisting my words. I didn't know who he was. Daniel's eyes didn't soften. That man, he said, is my father. The world seemed to stop. Richard's fingers, which had been fidgeting with the edge of a napkin, went still. Your father? He said weakly. Yes. His name is David Carter. He served this country for over 20 years. He has scars on his body and scars in his mind because he believed this country was worth defending. And when he came here to your diner, He wasn't treated like a veteran. He wasn't treated like a father. He wasn't even treated like a human being. He was treated like a problem. Richard's eyes filled with tears. He didn't know how to hold back. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear if I had known he was a veteran, if I had known he was your father, Daniel cut him off quietly. And that, he said, is exactly the problem. Richard looked confused. Daniel leaned forward just a little. Why? He asked. Should you have to know who he is to treat him with respect? Would you have been kinder if you knew his son was a doctor? If you knew I was a partner in the company that now owns this building? Would you have suddenly seen his value then? If your respect only appears when someone is important or connected, then it's not respect, it's calculation. Richard stared at the table. His voice came out small. I was raised in a different time, he whispered. My father, he had his ways. He taught me certain things about who we serve. I just never questioned it. Times changed, Daniel replied softly. But you didn't. And now the world is showing you the cost. Richard ran a hand over his face. Are you going to shut me down? He asked hoarsely. Is that what this is? You came to take my diner away? Daniel sat back in his chair. He could have said yes. He could have ended it all in that moment. But another voice echoed in his mind. His father's voice. Son, don't let hatred win another battle today. No, Daniel said finally. I didn't come here to destroy you. I came here to give you a choice. Richard looked up slowly, eyes red. A choice? He repeated. Our company is changing this town, Daniel said. We want places that reflect fairness, kindness, real community. If you want to stay here, if you want to keep this diner, things cannot stay the way they've always been. What do you mean? Richard asked. Daniel spoke clearly. You will keep your lease, he said, under certain conditions. He counted them on his fingers. First, you will complete a real anti-discrimination training program, not a quick online quiz, a real program. You will listen, you will learn, you will be uncomfortable. Second, you will make a public apology, not just a statement online, a real apology, in this diner, in front of people, in front of my father. Third, you will open your doors to everyone. No more your kind comments, no more quiet exclusions. You will hire staff from different backgrounds. You will prove that everyone is truly welcome here. And fourth, he paused, you will start something new. A veterans table. One table in this diner, always reserved for veterans and their families. Once a week, you will offer free meals to those who served, especially those who are struggling. You will sit with them. You will hear their stories, and maybe then, you'll understand what you tried to push out of your door. Richard stared at him. You'd let me keep the diner? He whispered. After what I did? Daniel nodded. Closing you down might satisfy some people online, he said, but it wouldn't teach you anything. You don't just need punishment, you need transformation. Tears slid down Richard's cheeks. I don't deserve this kindness, he said. Daniel's voice softened. Maybe not, he replied honestly. But forgiveness isn't something we give because people deserve it. It's something we give because we refuse to let hatred control us forever. He slid a document across the table. This is your new lease, Daniel said. All the conditions are written there. If you sign, you stay, and you change. If you refuse, we'll find someone else who wants this space. Someone who understands what it really means to serve a community. Richard picked up the pen with trembling fingers. He thought about his father and the old ways he'd been taught. He thought about the diners who used to fill these seats. He thought about the quiet humiliation on David's face as he walked out the door. Slowly, he signed. A week later, a notice appeared on the diner door. This one wasn't printed by angry strangers. It was written, signed, and posted by Richard himself. Community gathering, all are welcome. My name is Richard Hayes, owner of Hayes Family Diner. Recently, a video was shared of me treating a customer with disrespect and prejudice. That man was a black veteran. He came here for a meal. I sent him away because of my own ignorance. I was wrong. I am inviting you all today at 5 p.m. to listen to my apology, to hear how this diner will change. Everyone is welcome, especially the man I hurt, if he is willing to attend. At 5 o'clock, the diner was full again, not with the same easy, casual energy as before. This time, the air was thick with curiosity, and judgment, and hope. David sat near the door, his son beside him. He didn't want to come at first. The memory still stung, but Daniel had spoken gently. Dad, sometimes the person who hurt you has to see you standing there when they say, "I'm sorry." Yeah, not for their comfort, but so they truly understand the weight of what they did. Now, as people whispered and took their seats, Richard stepped out from behind the counter. He wasn't wearing his apron today. He stood there as just a man, no role to hide behind. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice unsteady. "I won't pretend this is easy for me, but it's nothing compared to the weight of what I did." He took a slow breath. "Some of you have known me for years. You've eaten here. You've laughed with me. You've trusted me. But there's another side to me, a side I didn't question for a long time. I learned prejudice in my father's house. He taught me who was good for business and who wasn't. I never used ugly words in public, so I convinced myself I wasn't like those racists on TV. But racism doesn't need loud slurs. Sometimes it speaks softly. Sometimes it hides behind polite language. Sometimes it wears an apron and smiles while pushing people out." He looked at David. "When a black veteran came into my diner," he continued, his voice breaking, "I looked at his skin before I saw his humanity. I questioned if he could pay. I told him to go somewhere else. I disrespected him. I disrespected everyone who has ever served this country. I disrespected this town." The room was silent. "I don't deserve forgiveness," Richard said, "but I'm asking for a chance to change. Not with words, but with actions." He turned fully to David. "Carter," he said, "I am deeply, truly sorry. You gave years of your life to protect people like me, and when you came here, I treated you as if you were beneath me. You were not the problem. I was." For a long moment, David said nothing. Then he stood up. He walked slowly to the center of the room, his limp visible but his posture strong. People watched him with wide eyes. Some knew him, most didn't, but they all felt the weight of his presence. He stopped a few feet from Richard. "You humiliated me," David said quietly. "You made me remember things I've been trying to forget. Times when doors were closed in my face. Times when I was told I didn't belong." Richard lowered his gaze. "But," David continued, "I didn't come here tonight to humiliate you back. I came because my son believes people can learn, and because so do I." He took a breath. "When I walked into your diner that day, I came as a customer. You saw an inconvenience. I am a soldier, a father, a neighbor, a human being. You didn't know that. You didn't care to know. If you're truly willing to change, to unlearn what you were taught, to treat every person who walks through that door with dignity, no matter their color, then I accept your apology, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to let hatred decide who I am." There were tears in more than a few eyes now. Richard's shoulders shook. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're giving me more than I gave you." David extended his hand. Richard stared at it. Then slowly he took it. The handshake lasted longer than most. It was more than a simple gesture. It was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood yet. Time passed. Little by little, the changes at Hayes Family Diner became real. A small plaque appeared on one of the tables near the window. "Veterans Table, in honor of those who served. You are welcome here." Every week, veterans came in and sat there. Some wore old jackets. Some kept their stories behind tight lips. Some talked openly about the things they'd seen. Richard listened. For the first time, he really listened. He heard about fear, about courage, about loss, about coming home to a world that didn't always care what they had sacrificed. He no longer saw types. He saw people. Lily came back one afternoon, curiosity drawing her inside. "I heard what you're doing," she said. The veterans table, the apology, the training, I had to see it for myself. "Are you here to stay?" Richard asked, hopeful. She smiled softly. "I'll give you a chance," she said, "but I won't stay silent if you slip back. Deal?" He nodded quickly. "Deal," he replied. The diner slowly became a different place. The sign on the door still said Hayes Family Diner, but now, when people walked in, they didn't feel invisible. Black families came in, Latino families, Asian families, white families, old, young, rich, poor. People started saying, "I heard what happened there, and what they did after. That's a place trying to be better." One evening, as the sky turned orange and the streetlights flickered on, the bell above the door chimed again. David walked in with Daniel by his side. They weren't nervous this time. Lily greeted them with a big, warm smile. "Good evening, Mr. Carter. Dr. Carter, your table is ready." The veterans' table by the window. They sat down, the same spot where everything began. A moment later, Richard came over personally with 2 plates in his hands. "On the house," he said quietly. "Every time you're here, it's on the house." David chuckled softly. "You really don't have to do that," he said. "I know," Richard replied. "That's why I want to." He hesitated, then added, "I can't change what I did, but every day I can choose who I am now." Daniel watched them both, then spoke softly. "Some people think karma means you get destroyed for what you did," he said. "But sometimes karma is different. Sometimes it brings you face to face with the people you hurt and gives you a chance to become someone better." Richard nodded. "If you two hadn't come back," he said, "if you hadn't given me conditions instead of just punishment, I'd still be the same man, blaming the internet, blaming these times, blaming everyone but myself." He looked around the diner. Now it was full. Not just with customers, with stories, with faces from every walk of life. "This place feels different," he said. "For the first time in years, it feels right." David smiled gently. "People are watching you," he said, "not just because of what you did wrong, but because of what you're doing now. Don't forget that." "I won't," Richard replied. As the evening went on, voices mingled in the air like a gentle song. Laughter, soft conversations, stories about the past, hopes for the future. At the table by the window, a black veteran and his son shared a peaceful meal in a diner that had once rejected them. Outside, the lights of Hayes Family Diner glowed warmly against the dark. Life moved forward, but one truth remained, a truth that would echo long after this particular story ended. You never really know who you're looking at when someone walks through your door. You don't know their battles. You don't know their scars. You don't know who loves them, who they've protected, or who they might become in your life. So you have a choice. You can judge them by their skin, their clothes, their shoes, their accent, or you can choose respect. Because one day, the person you look down on might be the one holding the pen over your future, might be the one whose signature decides if your doors stay open, might be the one whose forgiveness saves you from becoming a prisoner of your own hate. In the end, this story isn't just about a racist restaurant owner and a black veteran. It's about all of us. About how we treat strangers, about how we look at people who don't look like us, about the quiet everyday choices that reveal who we really are. And if we're brave enough to change, if we're humble enough to say, "I was wrong," if we're kind enough to build tables where everyone is welcome, then maybe, just maybe, love and unity can win in the places we least expect.